Valor Morgulis, everybody, and welcome to my Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 1 review. Whew, you guys, it has been an incredibly long wait in between Seasons 6 and 7, but I think it was well worth it. And I am definitely super excited to talk about this Season 7 premiere. I think it started off very promising, and I think we can definitely expect a very, very good Season 7, or at least I'm expecting a very good Season 7 that will just absolutely blow my mind. So, yeah, before we get going, just a few little things here to hash out really quickly. I used to do Game of Thrones reviews on another channel of mine. My channel, it used to be called Stacie Watches Too Much TV, but alas, that channel got deleted on me for some stupid reason that YouTube didn't properly explain to me. So yeah, I'm doing Game of Thrones reviews now here on my book-related channel. And for another thing, I have some death predictions for not only this season, but I guess for the final season as well. So yeah, I'll put up this little picture that I have made with my death predictions. I did make this sometime after last season ended. I did a predictions video. So yeah, if you need to pause and look at this, these are my predictions, and I suppose throughout these next two seasons, I'll be Xing some people out. Okay, enough of all of this little minor intro stuff. Let's get going with my actual thoughts on this Season 7 premiere. And I guess, before I get to Arya, because Arya was definitely the cold open to the episode, let's kind of bypass her for just a moment and talk about Beyond the Wall with the Night's King and the White Walkers and the Whites. Wow. You guys, this was just a very simplistic scene, okay? Just a very simplistic scene, but so effective, I think, because at a distance you can see just this cloud of white air, and snow coming at the camera, but you can kind of see little things within this mist, and then finally it all comes closer to the camera. You see that it's the White Walkers and the Night's King and the Whites and whatnot, and the big thing that we get here, which I don't think we've seen yet, if I'm not mistaken, there are giant whites now, you guys. Oh my god, and that's pretty terrifying. And the thing is, at first you kind of just see one, but then as the mist kind of clears a tiny bit that you can see more, it looked like there was about 3 giants here in the Night's King's army. Oh my god, you guys, seriously, I'm a little terrified. Some people are definitely going to be getting killed by these giants, and I'm not too happy. But it was so cool though. Like I said, a very simplistic scene in some ways. No dialogue, no music, but very effective and terrifying, which I think is key and important. Okay, so let's move on to Arya now, starting at the twins. I think all of us, those of us watching the episode, I have a feeling all of us suspected fairly quickly, wait a minute, this is not really Walder Frey, this is Arya Stark, who has taken Walder Frey's face, and sure enough, that does turn out to be the case. Arya, she took Walder Frey's face, put it on herself, and she kind of commits her own red wedding, if you will. And she kills all of these Freys in the main hall. It was great. I loved it. Just so great seeing Arya get this justice for her family. I am curious though, because I immediately suspected, oh, this is Arya, this is current time, but I am curious, was there any of you out there, did you at first think, oh, this is a flashback, this is just, after the events of the Red Wedding and whatnot? So I am curious, differing opinions here, what some people took from this opening with Arya. But yeah, I guessed fairly quickly, because it seemed obvious to me anyway. So moving on from that awesome opening with Arya killing a bunch of people, we move on to Arya, who's just out in the middle of nowhere, I suppose, somewhere around the twins, I guess. And she comes across a random group of Lannister soldiers. And there was just so many thoughts whirling around in my mind at this moment, because I was like, oh my god, is Arya gonna kill these guys? Are they gonna kill her? What's going to go on? And I was expecting something just super dark and twisted and dramatic, and nothing like that happened. And I don't know, I think that was kind of a pleasant surprise in some ways. And another pleasant surprise, just the fact that these Lannister soldiers, they were just everyday guys. You know what I mean? I think that was the purpose of this entire scene, because I've seen a lot of negative feelings in regards to this particular scene, which I personally just don't understand, because a lot of people have been focusing a lot on Ed Sheeran's cameo appearance, that it distracted them and took them out of the moment. And for me, it didn't do any such thing. I didn't feel that way at all. I felt Ed Sheeran worked perfectly in the context of what was going on, and the scene made sense to me overall. It didn't feel like a pointless scene just to put in a cameo appearance by a famous person. It felt like a very important scene to me, because I felt like what the purpose of this scene was, it was just to show that not all of the Lannister soldiers are these horrible monsters. They're human beings too. This is just their job. This is how they make their living. This is how they support their families. And I just feel like it was a moment to humanize these soldiers who I think in the past we've often looked upon as being, you know, like I said, monsters, you know, since they work for the Lannisters. But and yeah, also a moment to humanize Arya to some degree, I think, because Arya killed Walder Frey. She killed all the Freys at the Twins, you know, and prior to that she killed the Waif quite brutally and whatnot, and Meryn Trant. So I think this was just a nice moment to put a bit of humanity back into Arya, that even though these are Lannister soldiers, she's not just gonna up and kill them. You know, I think she was only going to kill them if she had to. Now, I don't know. Maybe the next episode opens and these poor guys are lying dead at Arya's feet. Who knows? But yeah, for me, like I said, this felt like a really important, poignant little moment for Arya, you know, to show some sort of humanity from both groups of people, you know, Arya and the soldiers. And yeah, I personally liked Ed Sheeran. I thought he was great, and I love that little song he was singing too. I think that is a song from the books, if I'm not mistaken, but which book, I'm not quite positive. And another question that I had as Arya's chunk of the story concluded, because she tells the soldiers, oh, I'm gonna go kill the queen, and they kind of just laugh it off. You know, I think they're thinking, oh yeah, ha, whatever, little girl, you're not gonna go kill the queen, it's just a joke. But yeah, Arya's saying, I'm going to go kill the queen. That makes it sound that she is heading south. She is not heading back up north to Winterfell, where we know Jon Snow and her sister Sansa are currently residing. So that kind of made me a little sad, because I've been expecting this epic Stark reunion, and I feel like we're not really gonna get the Stark reunion that we're hoping for. I don't know. Once again, you know, as these next couple episodes go along, maybe somehow Arya's path gets redirected. You know, maybe she starts heading south, but for whatever reason she gets detoured back up north. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of my question right now. Are we going to have any sort of Stark reunion involving Arya or not? Or is she heading straight down south? Speaking of another Stark, let's talk about Bran and Mira. Just a very, very, very brief scene here. Bran and Mira have, thank God, they have made it to the Wall. Ed and some other Night's Watchmen, they meet them, they greet them, but yeah, there's a little bit of hesitancy there, because Ed's like, how do I know if you're Bran Stark? You could be lying to me. And then I love Bran here. Bran just pulls out, all of the information that he's gathered within the last couple months or whatever, however long the time span is. He starts talking about the army of the dead and this and that and what he's seen and what he knows. And yeah, that's proof enough to Ed, take this little boy seriously. And yay, Bran and Mira, they're going into the Wall now. And yeah, I'm definitely very excited to see where Bran and Mira are going, especially since we might not be getting, Arya reuniting with her siblings, we should at least be getting Bran reuniting with his siblings. Okay, so let's move on to Winterfell. This is perhaps the scenes that I am most excited to talk about. If you don't already know, if this is your first time visiting my channel, I am a huge Sansa Stark fan, okay? I mean, I got the shirt on, okay? This is Sansa's sigil that she wore last season. I love Sansa. She's easily my favorite character. And my next favorite character is definitely Peter Baelish, you guys. Littlefinger. Sansa and Littlefinger, I love their relationship. I love their twisted dynamic with one another. You know, he's trying to manipulate her. She knows that he's trying to manipulate her. And I think there's going to be this really interesting, you know, just this relationship going on with them this season, you know, and I'm very, very excited to see what's going to happen. And to be quite honest, you guys, even though Littlefinger is one of my top favorite characters, pretty much after Sansa, okay? Sansa and then Littlefinger, even though he is one of my top favorite characters, I am anticipating and expecting and predicting that Littlefinger is going to die some point this season. When and how, by who, that's the question. But out of all of my death predictions, he is my #1 death prediction. And it kind of pains me a little because there is a part of me that would love to see him make it to the very, very end. But yeah, I got going with Littlefinger and Sansa. That's how much I love the two of them, you guys. Let's kind of backtrack a little bit and go into the main hall of Winterfell and Lyanna Mormont, you guys. Lyanna Mormont just putting down all those men, being such a little badass, and she's a little girl, for crying out loud. And you know, I'm looking at my Funko Pops over here because I have this huge, my entire desk over here is littered with all of the Game of Thrones Funko Pops, and I'm sitting here thinking, where is the Lyanna Mormont Funko Pop? I need her. But yeah, I love this whole conversation going on in the main hall because Jon, he's getting down to business, and he's getting down to business fast because his primary concern right now is, you know, we need to unite the North, we need peace, and we need to fight against the White Walkers because they are coming, and it's gonna be terrible if we do not deal with this immediately. And we need to put all of our resources together. We need to use every man, woman, and child in this fight. And yeah, there's Lyanna Mormont saying, well, at Bear Island, I'm going to make sure all my men and my women and the children, they're all going to help you out with this. And yeah, it's just so great. I loved it. And she does, she kind of puts all of the other Northmen to shame, you know, because one of them, I can't remember who, one of the men is saying, you want me to put my women into this fight as well? And Lyanna's like, well, I'm gonna put all my women and children into this. So yeah, getting into the big tense moment here between Jon and Sansa, because this is definitely a pretty terrifying prospect as we continue into the season, because Jon and Sansa, we can't have them falling apart here. You know, they need to unite in some fashion, but the problem is they both are looking at things with different points of view because they have both had vastly different experiences. And this is the thing with Jon and Sansa. I appreciated what both had to say. You know, I appreciate both of their points of view, and both of their points of view are absolutely 100% valid. There is no one who is wrong here. Because for Jon, like I said, his primary goal is peace and unity with the North so they can go fight the White Walkers. But Sansa, her point of view is, you know, I'm a Stark, the North remembers, and there is several people in this room who were traitors to our family, who weren't there for the Stark family in their time of need, and families who sided with the Freys and the Boltons, and you expect me to just forgive these families. So Sansa's, her headspace is that we need to punish those families, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that thought process. You know, that is her state of mind with the things that she has gone through. And as much as I love Sansa, like I said, Sansa is my absolute favorite character on this show, I think in this particular moment, I do side with Jon, because yeah, the threat of the White Walkers is much more precarious at this point. And the families, you know, the families in the North, they all just need to unite and have a peaceful resolution here, because just angering families and giving away their homes, that's not really the way to go, because then it's just this repetitive cycle of blood feuds or family feuds and whatnot, you know? So I do agree with what John's plan is, you know, I definitely side with John in this moment, and yeah, his feeling that Sansa was trying to undermine him at this point. Because yeah, there's the two siblings, you guys, there's the two of them arguing right there in the hall in front of all of these other Northmen, and that doesn't really look good. And things just get really intense as well, because Sansa compares John for a couple seconds to Joffrey, but I think she quickly regrets that once she says it, because it's not really true. John is not Joffrey. And John even, I think he kind of compares Sansa to Cersei in some ways, because he's even mentioning, it seems like you admire Cersei. And I think that's true, because Sansa, even though she was terrified of Cersei, she didn't like Cersei, I think there was that part of her that respected and admired Cersei, because Cersei was a strong woman in this land controlled by men, you know? And Cersei, she gets shit done, you know? When Cersei wants something done, if she wants somebody killed, she has it her way, you know? And I think there's a part of Sansa that admires that, because I think she would like to be that sort of woman. Maybe not be evil and bloodthirsty like Cersei, but have a sort of power and control like Cersei. And another moment, also Sansa saying to Jon, don't be stupid, because Jon was already pretty stupid, you guys, when he went after Ramsay, after Rickon got killed. You know, let's admit right there, that was pretty stupid. Because Sansa even said, Ramsay's gonna play with you, Jon. Don't fall into his games. Don't fall into his trap. And Jon, he sure enough does fall into Ramsay's trap when Rickon dies. So yes, Sansa's trying to urge, once again, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid like Robb. Don't be stupid like our dad, because they both got their heads chopped off. And then we also get a quick shot of Brienne and Tormund, which was lovely. You know, I don't want to ship it, because there is still a strong part of me that ships Brienne and Jaime. But I do love the idea of Brienne and Tormund, because they are just too hilarious with one another, because he clearly has the hots for her. Brienne, I think Brienne might be a little confused, possibly. I think at first she was disgusted by him, but I think there is a part of her that might be mildly attracted to him. And that's the only time Podrick can defeat Brienne in their little practice combat, because she gets distracted by Tormund. And then yeah, she gets mad at Podrick because, well, I guess mad at herself, you know, she's saying she's mad at him, but she's mad at herself for being distracted by Tormund. And then directly following that scene with Tormund, Podrick, and Brienne, it does lead directly to this little moment with Sansa and Lord Baelish. And I just want to know what Littlefinger is up to, you guys. I think we all know exactly what he's up to, but it's like, I wish he would make it a bit more plain and clear, perhaps. But yeah, he's definitely just whispering in Sansa's ear. You know, he's definitely putting those doubts in her head, trying to get her to think. And yeah, even him just saying, you know, are you safe? Are you happy? And then Sansa saying, well, I'm safe. I'm around a bunch of people that I can trust and I know will protect me. But yeah, she doesn't respond to the happy portion of the question, because she's definitely not happy, and he knows that. And of course, their conversation doesn't really progress too much further than this. Just a quick little moment of whispering here, you know, between them, which is very, very intriguing. I'm definitely, like I said, I'm very curious where their relationship is going. Like I said, I expect Littlefinger to get killed at some point. And I'm kind of hoping Sansa does it. And they're interrupted by Brienne. You know, I think Brienne is looking up going, oh dear, I better go protect that girl before that man does any further damage to her. So Brienne interrupts it. And bravo to Sansa for just putting Littlefinger down, because Littlefinger, he's about to say his final departing words, and Sansa says, no need to have the last word, Lord Baelish. I'm sure it was something witty. And that was perfect. I loved it. I definitely got a giggle out of that. And speaking of giggles, wasn't this episode pretty funny? You guys, I laughed out loud right there. I laughed out loud with all the stuff with Sam. There was just a lot of really funny moments in this episode, I think. Plus Euron being pretty funny as well. Yeah, just one of the most lightest episodes in some ways. It was kind of a weird episode in terms of humor. I've never laughed so much during an episode of Game of Thrones. But yeah, back to Brienne and Sansa. Once Littlefinger does depart and Brienne is saying, why is he here? Why don't you just get rid of him? And Sansa, Sansa, once again, she's not stupid. She knows that even though she doesn't particularly like Littlefinger, she knows that she can use him because of his feelings towards her. And she knows that the Eyrie came to Winterfell at their most direst time of need. So yeah, he saved them all, essentially. The Veil saved them. So she's not stupid. She is thinking, even though we're not seeing her, speak out loud about all this. I think we can definitely see her brain working subtly behind the back, in the background and behind the scenes and whatnot. And yeah, once again, Brienne asking, what does he want? And Sansa saying, I know exactly what he wants. And I think that's obvious too. He wants Sansa. He wants under her skirts. And not only that, he also wants Winterfell, more importantly, I think. He wants the entirety of Westeros, I think it's safe to say. Okay, so I spent a very long time at Winterfell. Like I said, Winterfell, those were some of my favorite scenes in this particular episode, I think. So yeah, looking at my notes here, let's move on to King's Landing. And from the trailers, we got that quick image of the map room, I guess is what it is, and the map of Westeros is being painted on the floor. I really love that. It's so cool. Really well done, too, I think. And yeah, Cersei just walking on this map, looking at it. She's clearly already plotting and maneuvering. And we get that whole line of dialogue that we hear in the trailer where she's talking about enemies to the north, enemies to the south, to the west, to the east. The Lannisters, they don't have it very good at this point. And I think what we get here with this whole scene with Jaime and Cersei, once Jaime walks into the room, definitely just Cersei, to me anyway, she is just a cold-hearted bitch at this point. It seems like there's no mercy in her anymore. There's no more love or anything. It seems like she has no more feelings. It's like the death of Tommen was it for her, and the way she thinks of Tommen, that he betrayed her, and it's horrible. And Jaime, in the meantime, Jaime still has emotion and feeling to him, and he's sitting there saying to Cersei, we haven't even talked about Tommen yet. Can we talk about that? And Cersei's like, no, I am moving on from that. He betrayed me. There's no time to talk about it. Yeah, you definitely feel really bad for Jaime because it's kind of one of those times. It's like these children were a product of incest, but there's still just something so emotionally powerful there, because Jaime still loved his children even though he was a distant father, and so it is really sad, I think. So let's talk about Euron Greyjoy, you guys. Oh my goodness. I don't know if it's just me. I love this new and improved Euron Greyjoy. And the thing is, it's the same actor. You would almost think this is an entirely different actor, but no, it's the same actor. He has a whole new look now. He looks like a pirate at sea, which I think is appropriate. He looks like a pirate. He sounds like a pirate. And yeah, just his new personality. I like what they've done with him now because last season, even though I did like Euron last season as a villain, yeah, I don't think he came across as that threatening or menacing, and yeah, I don't think he had much of a personality, unfortunately. So yeah, I think this is a much better, new and improved Euron Greyjoy. I found myself laughing out loud about some of the things he was saying, and he just has this new swagger to him, he has this swagger, and he's not coming across as particularly menacing just yet, but I think you can see it bubbling under the surface, waiting to come out later on down in some other episodes, So I'm very excited to see Euron Greyjoy this season, which I can't say, about last season, He was only in a few episodes last season, and every time he was on, I was like, oh, okay, fine, let's move on. And yeah, this season, I'm definitely excited to see where his story is going. And he has come to make a proposal to Stacie. And Stacie, she has agreed to this, you know, to meet with him, and Jaime thinks it's a bad idea, and yeah, plus the fact that the Greyjoys, they turned on the Lannisters in the past, if I'm not mistaken, you know. So there's all of this rivalry and discord. So Cersei, when Euron does make this proposal, Cersei's like, nah, how can I trust you? You're a traitor. You might betray us later on down the line. So Euron, he doesn't take this too much to heart. You know, he kind of just, he still has this swagger and smile to him and this newfound determination, because we know that Euron, what he wants most, he wants a queen, because his primary object was going after Daenerys last season, but I think he's got it in his head, okay, I don't think that's going to happen, but Cersei is the next best thing. So we leave King's Landing with Euron saying to Cersei, okay, in order to prove my trust and value to you, I'm going to bring you back a gift. So what the hell, you guys, what is this gift? I'm assuming it's going to be a person. I don't think it's going to literally mean like an object. You know, I think it's going to be a person of some sort. Could he go after Sansa? Could he go after Tyrion? Kind of judging from promotional things that have been leaked, without giving away too many, I don't know, maybe this is too spoilery, but yeah, just judging from things that have been revealed through behind-the-scenes photographs, it seems like Euron is going to be going after the Sand Snakes, possibly, Alaria Sand, since they're responsible for Marcella's death. So yeah, I think definitely the gift is going to be a human of some sort. I'm definitely excited to see where that's going to go. Let's move on to the Citadel next, you guys, with Sam. Poor Sam. You know, I think Sam expected to arrive at the Citadel and that he would just get immediate knowledge, he would get to get his maester's chain and whatnot, but he kind of gets the hard truth, and it's a very monotonous life, and he's not just gonna immediately get his chain like he thought, because what we see Sam doing, he's serving out soup, and he's cleaning out the toilets and the sick room, and oh my god, you guys, this was gorgeously graphic and gross. I loved it, because I think I was about to gag at some point, but it was so hilarious at the same time. And the thing is, the soup and the poo, it all kind of just started merging and blending to the point that you couldn't tell what was what. And it was great. And we see Sam in between his chores, I suppose. He's looking through books, but nothing is being successful for him. And I think he's starting to get to this low place, like, oh god, I'm going to fail Jon, I'm not going to be able to find any answers for him. And he does see this restricted section, which made me think of Harry Potter, the library at Hogwarts. And yeah, there's this restricted section of books. He's trying to figure out how to get in there. We're introduced to Jim Broadbent's character. I have to look at my notes here. What was his name? Archmaester Ebros, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm not quite sure. You know, there was a fan theory that Jim Broadbent was going to play Maester Marwyn. But yeah, on IMDb, it says he's playing Archmaester Ebros, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I'm not sure if that's correct or not. I'm assuming it is. But yeah, Archmaester, I shall call him, just to make it easier on myself. We're introduced to him. He's sitting there dissecting another maester, it looks like. It was so graphic and gory. I hate autopsy scenes. They always make me squirm. And yeah, there's Sam, you know, trying to ask, I think he's sitting there trying to ask for permission about, can I go into the restricted section? He's trying to explain about Beyond the Wall and the White Walkers and the threat that is coming, and they need dragon glass and this and that, and you know, we get this little hint almost, you know, I almost feel like this is a tease, you guys, that the wall is coming down by the end of this season, because the Archmaester is even mentioning something about, oh, the wall, it has been standing for thousands of years, it ain't going anywhere, you don't need to worry about it, why trouble yourself about this? So yeah, the Archmaester doesn't really seem to care at this point. It seems like nobody cares. But Sam knows the true threat. You know, Sam knows what is coming and how horrible things will get if winter does come. So we do see Sam, he's able to grab himself a pair of keys. You know, I thought this was all a little too easy. Because if this was a regular season, it would take Sam a couple tries to get some keys and to get into the restricted section, but instead it just happens in the span of about a minute. which was kind of surprising. He gets the keys, he gets into the restricted section, he gets a bunch of books. Him and Gilly are going through the books, and he's sitting there flipping just randomly through some pages, and he does find out about, I guess, this pit underneath Dragonstone that may have a bunch of dragon glass, and we know the dragon glass is going to be pretty valuable and important going forward, because it seems like that's the only thing that can kill the White Walkers and whatnot. And it's all rather convenient timing, I think, especially considering Danny is in Dragonstone, John might be heading to Dragonstone as well. But yeah, the other big thing that happens, Jorah. You guys, Jorah, is he in quarantine? I couldn't quite tell what was going on there with Jorah, because was it quarantine, or was it people who were in prisons? Possibly, I don't know. I'm going to guess quarantine, considering that he has grayscale. So, my understanding, it seems like Jorah came to the Citadel with the hopes of, hey, can you guys help me out with a cure? So, maybe Sam's going to help him out with a cure. That would be nice. Jorah is on my death predictions list. I still feel like Jorah will die at some point, whether he dies from the grayscale or he just dies by some other means trying to protect Daenerys. I don't know, but yeah, it'd be nice if Jorah does get cured so he can reunite with Daenerys, so he can be involved in this big battle to come. And yeah, that'd be nice too, you know, because Sam, he has his information, he can just travel with Jorah, they can tell everybody about all this. So let's move back up, I guess somewhere in the north. I wasn't really quite sure exactly where this was, but I mean, it was snowing pretty heavily, so I'm assuming somewhere up in the north. And we see the Hound with the Brotherhood. They're trying to seek shelter somewhere, and this house that they stumble across, this is the same house, correct, that the Hound and Arya, they came across back in season, God, what was that? Season 3 or 4, you guys? No, 4, yeah, season 4. No, 3. You guys, God, there's so many seasons, I can't keep them straight. But yeah, either way, season 3 or 4, the Hound and Arya, they come across that house with the man and his daughter, and they eat with them, but then the Hound, it kind of robs them and beats up the old man, I think is what happened. And Arya got really upset about that, like, these are innocent people, why'd you do that? And yeah, the Hound stealing their food and their horses and whatnot, that proved fatal, it looks like, to that man and his daughter, because it seems like they starved to death. They weren't able to stay warm either, and they died. Or the man, they made it sound like the man killed his daughter and then he killed himself, is what it sounded like. And that's just, oh, so sad and tragic. You guys, that poor man and his daughter. I'm never going to be able to watch that episode the same ever again, knowing what the outcome is going to be. And the Hound, he feels pretty ashamed and guilty. You know, you definitely see that on his face, that, man, I did this. I'm responsible. I'm a jackass. And just a beautiful moment there too, because, you know, they didn't have to bury these people, but the Hound, out of shame and guilt, I suppose, he takes that time to go out into the freezing snow and to bury this man and his daughter, and he tries to say some final words about their graves, but he can't even remember what the whole spiel is about the mother and the father and whatnot. And another interesting moment that we get, you know, the Hound's been here with the Brotherhood. I think he just thinks they're all a bunch of phony people, a bunch of crazy people looking at the flames, and that they're not really seeing anything. But yeah, Beric Dondarrion and Thoros of Mirror saying to him, you know, look into the fire. You may be surprised what you see or something. And the Hound, I think reluctantly at first, he does look into the flames, but pretty immediately, I was kind of surprised with this, because I was kind of expecting him to look into the flames and then be like, I don't see anything, and then they'd be like, try again, and then he does, and he's like, I still don't see anything, and then, yeah, on the third time he looks, and yeah, either way, on his first try, looking at the flames, I believe, he does see something. He says, he's talking about, I guess, I'm trying to remember, I've only watched the episode once, he's saying something about, like, the wall, and the White Walkers, and, a castle or something, or a mountain that's in the shape of an arrow, or something like that. And the way he describes this whole image here, it almost sounds like the castle on the wall that Jon is also referencing, because Jon is mentioning, I think, Eastwatch, by the sea is what he says, I want to say, and that they need to go man that castle because the White Walkers, instead of trying to go through or over the wall, they might try to go around that end where the wall meets the sea. So I think there's going to definitely be some connections here in the future. We may see the Hound and the Brotherhood team up with some of the Night's Watch, maybe meet up with John later on, which would be pretty cool. And I'm starting to get a little upset, you guys. Are we ever going to get the Hound versus the Mountain? I feel like it's never going to happen at this point. If the Hound is heading up way up north and the Mountain's way down south, I just don't see them colliding. So let's end this review talking about Dragonstone. Dany, Tyrion, Varys, Missandei, Grey Worm, the Unsullied, you know, all these people, they finally land on Dragonstone, and this was such a beautiful ending, you guys. There was something kind of emotional about it as well. I didn't expect to kind of get the emotion in me that I did. And the beauty of this whole sequence of events, because it lasted for a fairly long amount of time, a good 5 or 6 minutes I want to say, and there's just music playing, you know, and the music just swells as Dany progresses further and further into Dragonstone, and yeah, no dialogue, just the music. I loved the whole, the pan out and you see all of Dragonstone and here's the dragons flying in. It was so beautiful and well done. I love the moment of Dany. She's on the sand. She puts her hand on the sand and she's, you know, just sifting the sand through her hand, you know, feeling, you know, this is my home. I have made it finally. And then once they do enter into Dragonstone, it's like, here's the throne right in front of Dany. And interesting enough, because I was expecting her to go sit immediately on that throne, but instead of sitting immediately on that throne, instead she kind of makes a quick left and she heads into, I guess, you know, the room with the table with all of, you know, the map table and whatnot with, you know, the little symbols for the Starks and the Greyjoys and the Lannisters, you know, where Stannis used to hold all of his council meetings and whatnot. And yeah, Daenerys instead heads that way into that room and she's looking at this map, and yeah, the episode ends and the whole time it's been silent, you know, and finally we get some dialogue, and all Dany says to Tyrion, she says, "Shall we begin?" and it cuts to black, and yes. So Dany is prepared to start some business now up in Dragonstone. It's pretty damn exciting. I cannot wait, you guys. Yeah, I guess I'm done. I just have this page of notes here. I'm done with this page. So now, you guys, in the comments below, what did you think about this episode? I freaking loved it. Just a very promising start to the season. I think it's only going to get better and better and better and heartbreaking as we reach the conclusion of the season. Yeah, and then just one more season after this, you guys. I don't even want to think about it. Yeah, like I said, just share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I would love to continue the conversation with you. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.